Greetings, Talvat, and another episode is lined up for you today, and what a special one it is. So we're going to be reviewing the last of our detachments, but definitely not the least, the Kroot Hunting Pack post-September slate. Now, this detachment is very unique. For those of you who are watching this video, you're probably Kroot fanatics, and you've got the models ready to go. I love this detachment. It's full of tricks, it's full of just gorillas and Kroot, and it's amazing. It's so much fun. I had the most fun when the Tau Codex first came out by playing this detachment straight away at Team's event, and I loved it. Yes, I know it was slightly broken when it first came out, but it's still extremely powerful because it's our version of a stat check horde army that can just present multiple problems for your opponent to deal with. You've got reactive moves, you've got lone ARP, you've got so much toughness in the rampages and the Kroot riders, and the whole army has a 5+ invulnerable save versus ranged and a 6+ invulnerable save versus melee. Now, so the detachment itself has two things. One I've already mentioned, the invuln. The second is that when a Kroot carnivore squad targets something or shoots or combats something that is below its starting strength, it gains +1 to hit. And if the enemy is below half strength, they get +1 to wound, which is a really good breakpoint for the combat element. And obviously with the shooting, it can actually add up when you just throwing Kroot riders, repeater cannons, and then Kroot plink fire. It can actually do a surprising amount of damage to an unaware opponent because they just think, oh, it's Kroot, it can't shoot good, right? Right. So let's get straight into the power and the reason this detachment has been doing very well across the meta. The key thing here, there's very, very few, in fact, 0 armies from a shooting perspective that can handle what you can put on the board. This army scores extremely well. Primary, sticky objectives because of Kroot everywhere. It can move block, it can control the board state with just the amount of bodies it can pump out or the amount of toughness 6 with 5 wounds per model. To give you an example, a 90-point unit of 3 Kroot riders has 15 wounds at T6 at 5 wounds per model with a 5+ invuln versus range and a 6+ invuln in combat. All of the rampages and the riders have the same toughness and the same wounds, and their profile only differs slightly when it comes in combat. They're 6-1-2, so strength 6, AP 1, damage 2. So it's been what it's been doing is that seeing the list by Drew Salzborn when he started running like the 6 tanks and Shadow Sun and 3-3 riders and 3-6 rampages. And it was just like, I can't handle this. And he just absolutely destroyed the field because he also backed up the Kroot with loads of Tau tanks, 3 Skyrays, 3 Hammerheads, Shadow Sun. So it's like, I've got all these tanks, and you've got, here are your options. I'm going to put the riders on objectives, and you have to come and deal with them. If you come and deal with them, you can't shoot them because I can loan up 18 them. And if you do get within loan up 18, cool, great, you're now closer to my Tau guns, and my tanks absolutely blast you off the board. The other way of looking at it is that, okay, you've come out to deal with 3 riders, I'm now going to hit you with the rampages. So you're saying to your opponent, if you can't deal with this, the trading that's going to happen is I'm going to push out this 90-point unit, which is really hard to shift in shooting. It needs a dedicated combat unit to remove them. And once you remove the 3 riders, 6 rampages are going to go and clean you up. And then that trading only happens for a couple of turns and your opponent is just out of potential. It cannot do damage to you. Whilst you can threaten firing lanes with the tanks to keep transports, heavier vehicles out of your face. And there's so many different things you can do with this detachment that's just so much fun and it's crazy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of give a brief overview of some of the data sheets and certain combinations you can do, and then I'm going to go into the list. So the data sheets alone, okay, so if you look at the Kroot rampages, now the Kroot rampages, in the previous video I did with Auxiliary Card, I talked about keeping the units to like 3-mans, using them more defensively rather than offensively. But in the Kroot Hunting Pack, the melee profiles of the Rampagers, they hit on 3s, they've got sustained hits 1, strength 6, AP 1, 2 damage. So you've got 4 attacks per Rampager, so that's 6 of them. So you're looking at 20 attacks. Oh my god, my maths might be wrong there. 1 second. Yeah, 20 attacks with potential easy to be hit on 2s. Sustain hits 1. And if you do take a lone spear, you can give them 4 rolls to hit and fish for those 60s because they hit on 2s. And then on top of that, their abilities are, when they've ended a charge move, select one enemy unit within engagement range, roll a d6 for each model in this unit within engagement range of that enemy unit. For each 4+, the enemy suffers d3 mortal wounds. If one or more models were destroyed as a result of these mortal wounds, they must take a battle shock test. So you've got layers of shooting to reduce them to below starting. You've got the shooting from the tower units to make him potentially go below half. And then you could be having +1 to hit, +1 to win with Rampagers, plus charge mortals. It gets crazy. And then you've got the Kroot Riders. So the Kroot Riders actually have decent shooting. Before we move on to that, I forgot to mention, even the guys on top of the Rampagers have Lance on the charge and their strength 4 with AP 1/1 damage, Lance. But again, +1 to hit, maybe +1 to wound, can start to add up. And this unit can punch out some serious damage for 170 points. So super cheap, right? Then the Riders themselves have the same combat profile as the Rampagers, but they just don't have sustain. So there's still 4 attacks at 6, 1, 2. And the guy on top just has a close combat weapon, 2 attacks, strength 4, no AP 1 damage. But their abilities, if somebody shoots at your Kroot infantry, as long as this Kroot Riders unit is within 6, it can shoot back as if it's a shooting phase. So you've got a little bit of cheeky kind of like free Overwatch, if you will. And that rarely comes up, but it can absolutely come in clutch at some moments of the game. And I always just take the repeater, the cannons, because the repeater cannons are just 2 shots, but they're rapid fire 2, 36-inch range, strength 7, AP 1, 2 damage. They hit on 4s, but you can easily make it so that they hit on 3s with +1 to hit. And then if the target is below half, you're getting +1 to wound as well. So it's just a consistent amount of damage from a really cheap unit. Then you look at the Kroot Carnivores. Now we know the Kroot Carnivores, they sticky objectives, scout move 7, they got stealth, and they're not known for their durability. But with a 5-up invuln, they actually become annoyingly difficult to shift, especially with stealth. Now, there is some stratagems which I'm going to go through which are really important to build your list around. But just straight away, we've kind of gone with Kroot, Rampagers, and Riders. Those are the only units that, and there's one other one that I'm going to discuss in a second, that are great. Farstalkers. Now, we're going to see a little bit of an increase in infiltration war, especially with things like Raven Guard coming out. And just infiltrate is a really good ability to have. And Orcs have got commandos now that can split into 2 units rather than having a 10-man, and they can be in 2 parts of the board. You've got Jaegers from the Leagues of Votann. So I actually think Farstalkers are now a must-have in the Kroot army, just to kind of block out the mid-board. And if you win the roll-off to determine who's placing unit first, aka the defender/attacker role, you can then place 12 Farstalkers, because it's a 12-man strong unit, because it's got 2 hounds, across the entire mid-board, and it blocks off your entire enemy's infiltration options. But you might be thinking, well, that just lets the unit die if I go second, right? No, because I prefer taking Trail Shapers in my Kroot list. And the reason for this is one of the most powerful mechanics that's come out in 40k is reactive moves. And we don't have access to that as a Tau army, which is a shame, because Tau's all about the kind of like bait and switch, like fire and feign action, a little bit like Eldar. But Kroot have it if you take the Trail Shaper character. So the Trail Shaper is a 55-point character that basically grants a reactive move to the units he's leading of D6. And that can really play into some of the powerful stratagems within this detachment. And then also on top of that, what it allows you to do is, after both players have deployed their forces, before knowing who's going first or second, you can redeploy his unit and another Kroot unit as well. So when I go through the list, you'll see why I've taken this. But that Farstalker unit that I mentioned, just blocking out the entire of the midboard, you can suddenly go, okay, well, I've blocked your infiltration, so there's no more infiltration from you. And I'm going to pull this unit to safety, and it's not going to die. And if, for example, the enemy's got lots of scout moves, you might consider losing that unit. Okay, it serves a purpose, but it's a great opportunity. And this is opened up by taking the Kroot Trail Shaper. Now, what I want to talk about now is the stratagems. So, the Kroot Hunting Pack. First off, actually, skipped over the enhancements. Let's look about the enhancements. Now, enhancements are really powerful. If you want to go on a full deep dive, I've got a Kroot video within the Kroot folder on my YouTube. But you might see you might see all of them, really. But in this type of list that I'm going to be demonstrating today, I don't have any enhancements because I couldn't afford it in terms of the way that my list was built. But the Kroot Hawk Flock is fantastic. The Kroot Hawk Flock allows the model to ignore cover save and his unit is with, but it also stops the enemy units coming in within. It basically has a 12-inch no deep strike and strat reserve bubble, so it can really block out the board. So the combinations that you might see happening in Kroot Hunting Pack is Dark Strider, who has his own no deep strike within 12 bubble, and then a Kroot character like a Lone Spear with this means that you can block off pretty much the entire of half of a board with just 2 models, which is insane. So you can effectively shut down your opponent's ability to come in from deep strike or strat reserve. And the other ones, Nomadic Hunter, you can give like a Kroot unit +3 move, which can be quite nice. And Assault, not really taken for the Assault for shooting, but it's mainly for that Kroot unit that can scout move 7, suddenly move 10 because of the +3 movement, and then charge. Root Carve Weapons is a really cool one to take on a Warshaper with a bow, because you can do dev wounds, precision, and it's kind of a nice little tech piece if you want to go and hunt characters. And then finally, Boarthrod Gland to give a Kroot unit crits on 5s. And there's a Flesh Shaper that gives them crits on 6s for sustained. And so you can kind of then suddenly be doing sustained with an entire Kroot Hunting Pack on 5s. Right. But for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to go straight into the stratagems. So join the hunt, a 2 CP stratagem to bring back an entire Kroot Carnivore or Kroot Hound unit. Now, I have factored this into my list, and I've got a unit of 20 Kroot for this reason, because I think just having 2 CP to bring back an entire resource is insanely powerful, and you should definitely not overlook this. And then you've got another stratagem called the Trap Well Laid. This is a little bit awkward, I'll be honest, because it has a couple of caveats, which is like, you can gain effectively an extra AP, which is what Kroot need. That extra AP, especially in combat, comes in handy. But the problem is, you have to, the way that you resolve this is in the shooting or the fight phase. It's easy to apply in the shooting phase. One Kroot unit shoots at one unit, then another unit shooting at it gets the extra AP. But in combat, you basically, it says until the end of the phase, each time a Kroot model from your army makes an attack that targets that enemy unit, unless the attacking unit's battle shot improve the armor penetration of the attack by 1. But you have to do this after another unit has engaged in combat with it. So if you imagine you charge 2 units of Kroot in, and your opponent has enough CP, you'll attack with 1, do the extra AP, you'll play that stratagem, but the opponent will interrupt and attack the unit that's yet to fight. So it's kind of doesn't work as you want, but it's still there as an option if you can pull it off. There's a funny one called EMP grenades. So your opponent's shooting phase or fight phase. Just after an enemy vehicle unit is selected to shoot or fight, 1 Kroot grenades unit from your army within 8 inches of that enemy vehicle. Until the end of the phase, worsen the weapon skill and ballistic skill characteristic of that enemy vehicle by 1. So you can reduce their weapon skill or ballistic skill by 1, and you've got stealth. So from a shooting perspective, you can make a Rogel Dawn hit on 6s, for example, which is hilarious. So that's a way of you just shutting down shooting even further. The Grizzly Feast is a situational one, but can come up. If 1 Kroot unit from your army destroyed 1 or more enemy units this phase, so this is in the fight phase, in your opponent's next command phase, every unit within 6 inches of your Kroot unit must take a battle shot test. And if the unit taking that test is below half strength, subtract 1 from that result, from that test. Enemy units affected by this strategy do not need to take another battle shot test. So you can actually cause like a pseudo bomb of like, I killed something, they're then sitting there eating them, and then everyone gets freaked out, and fails the leadership test, and they can no longer interact with primary or do secondary. So again, situational, but it's only 1 CP. But the main ones that you're going to use is the Guerrilla Warriors. So 1 CP, your movement phase, just after a recruit unit from your army falls back, it can basically eligible to shoot and declare a charge. So fall back, shoot, and charge for 1 CP. Great with rampages. Go in, kill something, consolidate into something else. Next turn, okay, I'm still alive. I'll fall back and I'll shoot you and charge you and do the charge models again. That's 1 CP. And then finally, Hidden Hunters. So shooting phase. Enemy shooting phase, you can grant 1 Kroot unit, loan up 18. Brilliant. So you can make your big 20-man Kroot unit, loan up 18, Rampagers, loan up 18, Riders, loan up 18. You've got it in your pocket to be able to pull when your opponent's trying to line up shooting and whatnot. And this is why I've included the Trail Shaper in my list, because there's some interesting things you can do with a reactive move. And then you can layer things like when your opponent shoots you with a first activation, maybe removes half the unit, say, half the unit of 20 Kroot. Then you can pull the models that are really close to the other elements that have lined up to shoot you and go, you're more than 18 away now, I'm going to loan up. And then with the reactive move, you can spread them onto objectives that maybe they weren't originally on. So it's a great way of stealing some primary or interacting with your opponent's primary with the reactive move. So there's nice little combos going on here. Right then, so we talked a little bit about the stratagems. You kind of have got a little bit of a snippet of where my mind's going in terms of my list. So let's show you the list, shall we? Okay, so what I've kind of done here is, like I said, I cut out Shadow Sun, cut out any unnecessary kind of like niceties like a Lone Spear, and just went basic. I want a Trail Shaper. That's all I want. He's the Warlord, no enhancement, 55 points. Then I've taken the 20-man Kroot unit, because having a 20-man unit of Kroot with a reactive move can be used in so many clever ways. Scout move 7, move up. You can block out the entire of no man's land in terms of positioning, and then reactive move to block other things. And then if you lose the unit, so what? Your opponent has to then come out in the open to deal with you, and then you're lining up potentially some Tau tanks that I've got in my list as well. And then on top of that, you just stopped the entire opponent's movement phase with just 1 unit of 20 chickens and reactive move. And if it dies, you could always bring it back as well, assuming that you'll have the CP to do so. So, for example, turn 1, if you don't spend a stratagem, and then in their turn, you'll have 2 CP, and if they clear the 20-man Kroot unit, okay, cool, 2 CP, I'll bring it back. And then you don't have to bring it in the next phase. You can just have it sitting and waiting to maybe come on from reserve or rapid ingress later in the game. Then I've got a 10-man Kroot unit just to be a trading piece to sticky objectives, so I can focus on committing war crimes with this 20-man unit. Then, Farstalkers. Exactly like I said at the beginning of this call, I wanted to ensure that I have something that can infiltrate to protect my scout moves, because I've got a lot of scout moves, 20-man Kroot units, I've got the Rampagers, the Riders, so I need to protect that whilst also blocking out my opponent's infiltration. So again, this unit can do that whilst also then being redeployed with the Trail Shaper. And the Trail Shaper can redeploy his unit, and assuming that he goes in the 20-man Kroot unit, he doesn't have to, but I'm obviously going to put him in that 20-man Kroot unit for the reactive move, stuff that I talked about. But there is a world where you could maybe put him in the Farstalkers or a unit 10 Kroot and just redeploy. So there's some crazy little combos you can do with just this one character and 3 units of Kroot, the 20-man, 10-man, and the Farstalker unit. So I've got 2 stealth teams, and obviously this will come into play when you see my Tau units, and also the free rapid ingress that you get from the homing beacon doesn't just affect Tau, it affects all Tau Empire models, including Rampagers. So if you want to hit rapid ingress of 6-man Rampagers on the flank, then great, you've got some stealth suits that can give you that for free. And then if, for example, you're putting the Rampagers out in the open, no problem, I'll just loan up 18 because I've not spent the CP on rapid ingress because it's free. I've got a CP then to use loan up if my opponent has set up some shooting. If they haven't set up any shooting on the firing lanes, then you can just rapid ingress and don't care because there's nothing to shoot you. So then, speaking of guerrillas, Harambe's Revenge, here we go. 6 Kroot Rampagers, and then 3 units of 3 Kroot Riders. It's got all the gorilla, maximum gorilla. We have a running joke in the Discord, the pocket gorilla, which is 1 less Kroot Rider, so 3-3-2. No pocket gorilla today. It's all gorilla all the time. So brilliant. You use the Riders to bait the opponent out, your Rampagers as the counter punch, and then you've also got vehicles backing up the Kroot force. And those vehicles consist of a railgun hammerhead, 2 Seeker missiles, 2 accelerated burst cannons. I'm not interested in SMS here. I'm just interested in more DACA. Then I've got 2 iron hammerheads with 2 Seeker missiles, iron cannon hammerheads and 2 Seeker missiles and 2 accelerated burst cannons. I've got 2 of them, and then 2 sky rays with accelerated burst cannons yet again. So loads of strength 6 secondary weapon fire. You've got the iron cannons that can help clear hordes because it's D6 plus 3 blast. The Seekers to help go into vehicles, the Railgun, the Sky Rays to go and hunt down some of those tougher targets. But remember, the Hammerheads get the +1 to hit monsters of vehicles. So yes, you're going to look to guide them, but you don't always have to. You can just solo it because they get +1 to hit versus monsters and vehicles. And then the Sky Rays can also be used in conjunction with, let's say, Sky Ray goes out, guides with a Hammerhead. All of these tanks have got the innate reroll to hit or wound, so they can be very consistent, and Sky Rays are twin linked anyway. So even if a Sky Ray hits on 4s, it could use one of its rerolls. Let's say you get 1 4 out of 3 shots, but then you reroll the other one into another 4. You're going to get 2 hits, and then those 2 hits are twin linked, so they're going to be rerolling at strength 14. So it's consistent. So you've got the tanks to back up one of the weaknesses of Kroot, which is dealing with armor. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tanks. You've got 2 guiders, but then the Sky Rays can back up to guide the other Hammerheads if, for example, you lose the stealth suits at some point. And then you just got Guerrillas for days, and you've got the jank that comes with the Kroot infantry. And I think this, me personally, is the most powerful version of the Kroot Hunting Pack. And I know I've been playing around with the idea, and there's a couple of lists going around in the Discord right now of seeing if we can fit Riptides into the Kroot Hunting Pack, which is a really interesting debate. So it'd be interesting to see if you guys have similar sort of thoughts, and you can leave comments in the video below just to let me know if you played around with Riptides in Kroot Hunting Pack. But having an entire army that has 5+ invuln versus ranged, and then can suddenly just bring some Riptides that have got 4 up invuln and are durable themselves could be an insanely frustrating stat check for an opponent to deal with. So I think Kroot is going to have just an interesting time. The meta is going to be shifting into a little bit more of a combat focus, which might be bad for the Kroot, if I'm honest, but still, you've got combat yourself. You've got 3 units of 6 Rampagers and 3 units of Krootox Riders, so you just need to stage, block, and that's why I've included the 20-man Kroot Carnivore Squad, just to give myself some extra screening to protect from incoming charges. With the reactive move, I can do some really interesting plays to prevent the opponent from connecting with the units that they might want to. They should never be able to connect with my tanks, but they're going to want to connect into my Rampagers to punch out my combat punch, and that's where I can use this 20-man Kroot unit to really good effect. And I've still got a unit of 10 Kroot and a Farstalker unit as well. So that's why I've done this. So Kroot, super fun to play, offers you so many kind of things that you can do that I've already mentioned in this call, like the reactive move and abusing the lone op 18. You got the +1 to hit, the mortals, the +1 to wound if they're below half. And the great thing about when you layer your damage is if you use the stratagem grenades, you can grenade them, then you can do some shooting with the riders and all your Tau tanks, and then suddenly that unit's maybe not quite below half, but then you can charge in with your Rampagers, do the charge mortals, which then takes them below half, and then you'll be hitting on 2s. You'll be strength 6 with +1 to wound, so it means that you can punch up into anything that's not T13, and it's very rare that stuff is. So suddenly you could be wounding something that's, T12. You could be wounding that on 5s, or T11, you could be wounding on 4s. So for me, it's got everything you need, but it requires a very meticulous way of playing where you're just existing in the board, forcing bad trades for your opponent whilst hitting them in the face with Rampage and shooting them in the face with tanks. So hopefully you've really enjoyed this video, and hopefully you've really enjoyed the series that I've put together for this last couple of days. It's not usually what I would do by pumping out so much content in a very short period of time, because it's a lot to digest, but I've done it solely to support you guys for the LGT list submission and the LVO. So hopefully this has been appreciated and it's exactly what you were looking for. And if you want to return the favor and show me some love, please follow the YouTube algorithm stuff of liking, commenting, subscribing if you're not already subscribed. And if you want to support me further, I'd love to see you become part of the Puretide program. Honestly, it's the best Tau Discord in the world, and we've got so many more future plans to make it the best Discord in the world. And I know that's a very, very big statement, but I honestly believe with the community that we've got, with the ideas that we've got floating from not just me, but some treasured members of my admin team, Black Goodbye being one of them. He has absolutely shaped the course of this Discord, and he's working strongly with me to improve everything. And not just on the paid subscription front. We're going to be looking at ways to improve our general free community, because there's a lot of things that you do naturally when you're looking for, the favorite content from like other providers and other content creators, and the way that you source material seems to be like dotted everywhere. So we've got plans to make it all be condensed and easier to access, and making our Discord the best place to get access to all of the 40k information and the things that keep you guys ticking over before you go to your own events. So we're looking at really building a 40k library of just everything that you need at a click of a button. And we also want to help newer players get into this hobby, because the one thing that I really like about Warhammer right now is that we're getting new generations of 40k players coming in from other gaming systems, because it is such a social game, and because there is so much information available to everybody, it can be kind of a little bit daunting for somebody that's maybe new. Like, where do I start? Even something basic like, what the hell's FNP? Like, we know that it's feel no pain, but for somebody new coming into the game, they don't know what it means. So we're looking at making like a fundamentals section of our Discord, which is going to be accessible for free, and we're working on that in the background, which should be hopefully ready to launch coming close to next month. I know it's a busy month for me, but we've got plans for the next couple of months, and we're going to continue to improve and grow. But anyway, that's enough of me talking. Thank you so much for your time and all of the love and the comments that you've been sending forward. So enjoy this series of videos and enjoy the remainder of your weekend and next week, and good luck at any events that you're going to. And hopefully I might see a lot of you at the LGT or even the Las Vegas Open tournament. Take care, guys. Bye now.